All right, the first step we're going to do in preparing our bag, after we've cut the t-shirt or fabric as well as the muslin, we are now ready to begin sewing. What I'm showing you on the fabric is the same thing that you're going to do on the muslin, so you're actually going to duplicate this step twice. So, according to the instructions, it says pin the fabric or t-shirt together, right sides together. Remember, right sides is the pretty side, needs to be together. Make sure those corners that are cut out are towards you at the bottom. All right, so now we're going to use a seam gauge. You're going to measure down from the top of the material 1 inch. So you need to find 1 inch on the seam gauge. Line up the blue arrow. Then from the top of the material, I'm going to draw a line horizontally across. Now I'm going to use the seam gauge and go down 1 more inch and draw a horizontal line. This area is actually going to be where our drawstring goes through. It's going to be our casing for our drawstring. So we need to do it to the other side as well. Instead of going straight across, we actually need to bring your material over, because when you're sewing, you always have leftovers to the left. Instead of having to measure again, as long as you line up these tops, just go ahead and draw that line horizontally across. You might want to double check to make sure you have 1 inch from each one. All right, looks good. I'm now ready to pin. So I'm going to put 1 pin in the middle of that space. I'm not going to sew in between the chalk lines. And then I'll put another one in the middle and one at the bottom. I'm then going to flip this over, and I'm now going to put a pin in the middle of those chalk lines, in the middle of the fabric, and then one at the bottom. I'm now ready to sew. Please make sure you get a pin check before you begin. After I got a pin check, I'm now ready to sew. You are going to sew on the 15 line, backstitching at the beginning and the end from the top of the fabric to the first chalk line. Like I said during the demo of the pinning, please make sure you do not sew in between that chalk line. So this first little area that we're sewing on the 15 line. I'm going to line it up, press our foot down, needle down, sew, sew, sew. So I have everything lined up. I'm doing a quick little stitch. So I'm going to start 1, 2, 3, back 1, 2, 3. Only stitch to that chalk line. When you get to the chalk line, reverse stitch, lock those stitches, and then go back to the chalk line. Pull it out, cut your threads. Alright, so you can see I only sewed from the top of the fabric to the chalk line. Now I'm going to continue that stitch. I'm going to begin at the bottom of the chalk line. So line it up on the 15, press our foot down, needle down, sew, sew, sew. I'm going to begin, back stitch, and then continue until I get to the bottom. Every time you get to a pin, make sure you stop, take that pin out, put it in your pin cushion, and then continue sewing. I'm keeping a nice light touch as I'm sewing. Don't pull on your fabric too much. It could cause knotting of the bobbin. When I get close to the end, I'm going to lock it. And then I'm going to reverse stitch, lock those stitches in. Pull my needle up, lift the presser foot, cut the thread, cut those stitches, and I'm good to go. Now you're ready to do it to the other side as well as both sides of your muslin. Alright, after I've sewn both sides of your fabric and muslin, you need to press the seams open. Since both sides are actually closed, you're going to open up your bag and kind of put the circular part through the end, the skinny part of your ironing board. Check to make sure the iron's on. It needs to be kind of in the middle, like a 4 or 5. Then use your left hand, open up those seams, and use the point of the iron, the nose of the iron, to open those seams nice and flat. Do it to both sides of your fabric and both sides of your muslin.